Treefort Records presents the Highbrow Players in my mythological narrative. This episode is entitled Charlie Brown's. The Highbrow Players are Robert Crenshaw, Don Dixon, Marty Jones, Don Jones, Jill Bartlett, Steve Karras, Graham Mabey, Mitchell Crenshaw, Leah Crenshaw, Jamie Hoover, and Michael Datz.
Driven by student activism and resistance against the Vietnam War, the 26th Amendment was passed, prohibiting states from denying the right to vote to citizens at least 18 years of age. If you were old enough to be drafted and to fight in a war, you were old enough to vote for or against the people putting you in harm's way. Or so the thinking went. In response, 38 of the 50 states lowered the drinking age to 18. For the entertainment and alcohol beverage industries, these were boom times. For musicians and live entertainment in general, these were glory days. There was no shortage of places to play, and there was a cornucopia of sex and drugs and rock and roll for anyone who was interested.
Charlie Brown's was on Kenneth Street in Pontiac, Michigan, off of Telegraph Rd by Dixie Hwy. Dennis, Marshall, Rick Boehms and I played there for 16 weeks, 5 nights a week, probably 4 sets a night, the year I graduated from high school, 1976. When our friends or family would initially come up, the first thing they'd say is, "Oh, this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be." I'm sure, though, after experiencing a Friday or Saturday night at Charlie Brown's, though, they felt differently. I'm betting the building was built in the mid-1960s, when GM factories poured out cars and trucks in Pontiac running 3 shifts. It had a tall, vaulted ceiling, and as I recall, the wall where the stage was had a non-working fireplace built into it. There were 2 big gas grills in a cooking area and food prep area that could be seen from the bar. I bet in its day they had steaks and burgers with baked potatoes and salads smothered in blue cheese and Thousand Island dressing. Maybe chocolate mousse or cobbler with ice cream for dessert. I bet it was 1960s nice. By the time we got to Charlie Brown's, we had changed the name of the band to Denny and the Robots from Fonzie and the Happy Days. After we loaded in for the first night, we thought that it would be a good idea to put up the name of the band on the roadside marquee they had out front for advertising drink specials. We asked Kathy, the owner, where we might find the letters for the signage, and she pointed us to a box on a shelf in a storage room. When the box was taken down, we realized that it was a bit short on letters. There were certainly not enough letters to spell out Denny and the Robots, or Fonzie and the Happy Days. So, Dennis and Marshall began to brainstorm on what words or phrases they could put together with the letters in the box, and they settled on Flog Me, not as a new name for the band, but something fitting for the vibe of the club for sure. Eventually, I think Kathy got around to reading the sign and asked for it to be changed, but for a week or so, people did respond and came in to see who or what they may have the opportunity to flog.
Well, I'm sure as most of you are aware, we're Denny and the Robots. For those of you who've never seen us before, I'll just tell you right off, that's who we are. We've been here a long time, and we'll be here probably till we're all very old men. And we're gonna play rock and roll, all oldies, all the time. Just like Honey, the radio station. teardrops from one heart to carry on. You're way on top now. Since you left me, you're always laughing way down at me. Watch out now, I'm gonna get there. We'll be together for just a little while, and then I'm gonna put you way down here. You'll start crying 96 tears. Cry, cry. And when the sun comes up, I'll be on top. You'll be right down there, looking up. On my way, come up here. I don't see you waving now. I'm way down here, wondering how I'm gonna get to you. But I know now. I'll describe. Too many teardrops for one heart to be crying. Too many teardrops for one heart to carry on. You're gonna cry 96 years. You're gonna cry 96 years. You're gonna cry, 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 cry. You're gonna cry, 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 cry. 96 tears. Calling me to cry, baby. 96 tears. All night long and night and day. Yeah. I said 96 tears. Said 96 tears. Thank you. We'll see you real soon. Don't go away now.
And don't you go away either. Here's a word from our sponsor.
New from Bonco.
Did you hear about Bill next door?
No. Is he all right?
He's really changed. Everyone's afraid of him. The executives at work promoted him to supervisor. My supervisor.
I wonder if he's taking that new drug, Asholia.
Asholia relaxes the frontal cortex to release you from the bonds of impulse control and social behavior while stimulating the brain's amygdalas, freeing you to express your fear, anxiety, and rage, both verbally and physically.
I'm home.
How was your day? How do you feel?
I feel great. How about you shutting the up?
With Asholia, you can be the person you've always wanted to be. Maybe even president.
At Bonco Pharmaceuticals, we sell stuff. Sometimes crazy stuff.
Now back to our show.
By the time the Cosmos had brought us to Charlie Brown's, or Chuck Brown's as we called it, the place was filthy. The kitchen was closed. At its most base, the plumbing was out in the men's room, and there was a 5-gallon bucket under one of the urinals where the drain used to be. One of the workers had to empty that bucket from time to time. For a couple of nights, the heat was out, and the owner turned the gas grill way up to heat the place. The place filled up with so much smoke that the fire department came. I couldn't make it up any crazier if I tried. Like many bars at the time, they used to have 2-for-1 drink specials early most evenings, and one night a week was pitcher night, where 64-ounce glass pitchers were filled with draft beer, Pabst Blue Ribbon, Miller, Stroh's, or Budweiser for a bargain price. One night, some motorcycle gentlemen were sitting at a long picnic-style table that faced perpendicular to a wide, tall brick wall. Perhaps the service was particularly slow that night, or they were just in a carefree, dangerous mood. But someone took a glass pitcher and sailed it high into that brick wall, smashing it into 1,000 pieces. The crowd went wild. This was one of those times like in the movie Titanic, where the band just kept on playing. There were a lot of times back then when crazy stuff was happening in front of us, and the best and only thing we could do was to keep playing and hope not to get drawn into the mayhem. Pictures just kept on flying every so often, and the crowd would erupt like when an exciting play is made during a football game. I don't remember anyone being cut, but that's only because of the random, amazing good luck that drunk people sometimes have, like miraculously not killing anyone on the way home. There were a lot of dangerous scenes then. This particular group of motorcycle gentlemen carried single-shot Derringer pistols as a sidearm and often box cutters on their belt. There weren't any open carry laws in 1976. Looking back, I can't imagine that there was anything legal about it, but when one of them came up and requested a song, we always did our best to fulfill it. In general, I think we were always on our best behavior when a dozen or so of them showed up. They liked the band. One night, at the start of the second set break, a not unattractive woman came and sat down at a table with a few of us. After a few seconds, she asked,
So, which one of you wants a blowjob?
Nobody else spoke up, so I politely said, sure. This was 1976, and I was a teenager. This wasn't the type of opportunity I wanted to slip away. She was a hang-around or groupie of one of the bike clubs that hung out at the bar, and apparently this invitation was sanctioned by the club, a gift, I suppose. She took me out to a car in the parking lot, and we began to mess around. I was locked, cocked, and ready to rock in no time, standing at attention, I suppose, when suddenly she removed a top and bottom dental partial, gave me a gummy grin, and said,
I'm everybody's favorite.
and began to perform her mission. In less than a second, I went from thinking that this was a late Christmas present to being seriously freaked out, though not physically impeded. I may have been having my first psychotic audio hallucination, but she began singing and humming.
How you like it? How you like it? How you like it? How you like it? Told you I was everybody's favorite. See, I'm a good singer. How you like it? How you like it?
It was unnerving. Her head was going up and down to the rhythm, and I started to have to suppress a nervous laugh. How could I explain to her that I was laughing with her, not at her? Liar! Thankfully, just when I thought I was going to pop with laughter, I popped, and it was over. She lifted up her head and looked at me. I must have been grinning ear to ear. She just smiled and said,
I'm everybody's favorite.
I said thank you, and she put her teeth back in, opened the car door, and went back into the club. I think that she had done this kind of thing before. We had our shtick up on stage, and she had hers in the parking lot. It was crazy. When I walked back into the bar, people were smiling at me with a knowing look. I felt somewhere between feeling like I had been tricked to just a total dumbass for accepting the gift. I stupidly began to tell the story to one of my bandmates, and they burst out laughing. That made me laugh, and the whole thing just turned into a zany joke. One of the members of the gang heard us, and I don't think that he thought it was funny. He thought it was disrespectful, which, come to think of it, was true. And if there's one thing that will piss off a biker, it's disrespect, no matter how loaded with irony and confliction it seemed. He walked over and talked to what must have been someone up the hierarchy of motorcycle gentlemen. And that gentleman walked over and calmly informed me,
You disrespected our marm, and now we're gonna have to kill you. 'Cause we got rules. We like your band and you're a good drummer, but rules is rules!
Holy shit! This was not the way I thought it would end. Though this episode did seem to have all the elements of Mickey Rooney meets Linda Lovelace, which in theory could have been a Hollywood classic, it certainly wasn't worth dying for, especially for this teenager. A second later, I talked to Marshall, being my big brother, and Marshall suggested we slip out the back door after the fourth set. I thought that was a swell idea.
Hey, hey, Paula.
I guess Dennis and Rick Boehms, a bass player, must have done the final set as a duet, keeping it classy. I like to imagine they sang I Got You Babe, Hey Hey Paula, and Rosemary Clooney and Vera Ellen's classic Sisters from White Christmas.
Never had to have a chaperone, no sir. I'm here to keep my own head. Come on, sharing every little thing that we are.
The next morning, Dennis called the booking agency, and they called the sheriff's department. When we arrived the next night, 2 officers were there with what I can only guess were 44 Magnums strapped to their sides and brokered a treaty. They knew those biker guys. We ended up shaking hands and I apologized. The crazy thing, in retrospect, is I apologized to the guy, not the girl. I never saw the girl again. She disappeared as soon as we were walking into the bar. From my research, I don't even think that bikers are that disrespectful to women anymore. The social mores of the 20th century were different. Cringeworthy for sure. Charlie Brown's did have an impressive cast of characters. There was one old guy, I think maybe he even held the note on the bar, that used to come up and sing,
Show me the way to go home. I'm tired and I wanna go to bed with you. I had a little drink about an hour ago and it went right to my head.
The guy from the Crusader Car Club followed us over from the stock exchange and continued to do a pretty good Dion impression. And a very nice woman named Sharon, who had an almost perfectly round head, just like Charlie Brown. She and her folks came in almost every night. One of my favorite nights at Charlie Brown's, though, was Halloween. If you've ever worked at a bar, Halloween is a night when all inhibition is lost. Put someone in a Frankenstein suit, they very well may become an actual Frankenstein. This was 1976. Gerald Ford was president and the ghost of the disgraced Richard Milhous Nixon was still present in the collective mind's eye. The year's top-selling Halloween costumes were, in no particular order, the Fonz from Happy Days, Evel Knievel, and Richard Tricky Dick Nixon. At the bar, Nixon had never been so well represented. There was short Nixon, tall Nixon, fat Nixon, small Nixon, a dozen Dick Nixons, all with the same soft rubber face mask. We had a friend, rest his soul, named Michael Butkovich. I think Michael was the first guy I knew who graduated in the top of his class from a university. A great, smart, and funny guy. Most of my stories about Butkovich, and most everybody's stories about Mike Butkovich, as a young man anyway, begin with Mike and I went to this weird bar shaped like a boat on John R. one night, and they all end with, and I beg God, if you get me home safely, I will never drink again. He was a fun-loving guy, I guess.
It is the custom of every bar on Halloween night where people don costumes that there is an obligatory Halloween costume contest. What usually happens is the contest judges walk around the bar and pick out what they deem as the 10 or so best costumes in the room, and the contestants are brought to the stage, where an audience response determines the winner of the contest. Someone must have made the poor decision to have one or two of the band members become judges, because what I recall is nearly 10 identical Dick Nixons ended up on stage. The first Dick Nixon points his finger at the audience and mouths the words,
"I'm not a crook."
And all of his friends hoot and holler out their support. The second Dick Nixon points his finger at the audience and mouths the words, "I am not a crook," and all of his friends hoot and holler out their support. The third Dick Nixon, same thing. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then Butkovich. Naturally, our favorite Nixon's friends cheer him on. But then Mike reaches into his trench coat pocket and pulls out 2 7-inch reels of Memorex magnetic recording tape. The crowd went wild. It was great. I guess you have to be from a certain era to understand this, or a serious history buff, but it was funny.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Fonzie and the Happy Days.
Really here, I'm in the ground in my comfy bed, with a spark left in my head. What if I'm dead? What if I'm fast asleep in a hospital bed, hooked up to machines that whir and go beep beep? You know I might be asleep, pumped full of meds. I've just been misled. No, I don't recall what happened. Was I drunk and fell out of my tree? Or some critical part of my system simply ran out of warranty? With all of that said, what if I'm system simply ran out of warranty? With all of that said, what if I'm dead? So what is this really heaven? In a heavenly galaxy, and we're riding the back of a turtle across the cosmic seas. Well, if this sounds with a ring of truth, a revelation of a proof, or if you're having the deja blues, then maybe you're dead too.
I remember sitting at a table talking to Sharon, the girl with the perfectly round head, one night. She lived a few miles down the road in a trailer park off of Telegraph. She had brought a girlfriend to the club who was her neighbor in the park. I overheard her friend say that she wanted to get pregnant so she could collect enough welfare to move out of her folks' trailer and get her own dang trailer. The world I was passing through at Charlie Brown's was different than the world of 2727. I don't remember anyone who wanted to collect welfare on Oakshire. As I've gotten older and lived pretty close to the edge sometimes, even as an atheist, I clearly understand the sentiment, "There but the grace of God go I." The world is fragile. And also, on a certain level, every day is Halloween.
I'll deal with you later, my pretty. And your little dick, too.
By Robert Crenshaw, Jamie Hoover, Don Jones, John Crenshaw, Don Dixon, and Marty Jones. Sound design and final editing by John Crenshaw. This has been a Treefort Records production. Y'all come back now. Here.
Want to find out more about my mythological narrative? Are you a small business that wants to advertise on MMN? Do you have an idea for a new Bonko product? Want to subscribe and get access to episodes and bonus content? It's easy. Just go to www.mymythologicalnarrative.com and go to the contact section. We're looking forward to hearing from you.